From the shortest lap on the calendar, we move to the longest as the Quick Fit British Touring Car Championship heads to Snetterton. The full 300 layout this weekend. It is the longest lap on the calendar, and it is also the one event this year where we're going to have all three compounds of tyre being used. At least, assuming that is that the weather stays dry, because today, so far for free practice, it has been intermittent rain, and the faithful fans here at Snetterton are having to cope with the elements. The entry this weekend boosted by the return to the championship of Bobby Thompson, the championship led by Ash Sutton, just 2 points ahead of Colin Turkington. Tom Ingram third after that puncture at Brands Hatch, costing him points last time out. Fourth is Jake Hill ahead of Josh Cook and Aidan Moffat. Tom Chilton is seventh and Dan Rowbottom is eighth. Now remember that, of course, the qualifying system here is going to be, as ever, in this three-part breakdown, with part one in the two groups, with group one having 11 cars because we now have this extra car in the championship, Bobby Thompson joining the series this weekend. So 11 for group one and 10 for group two. We take the fastest 6 out of each group to go into the next part, and then take the next 6 into the very final part of qualifying. In terms of what we've had thus far, it has been very much front-wheel drive cars looking good out on track in the 2 free practice sessions. There's just confirming what I was mentioning about how the qualifying element is going to work with the 3 parts. And it could well be that as you go through qualifying, the road gets drier. It could be that the road gets wetter, depending on what the weather gods have in store. And particularly around here, given the length of the lap, you cannot afford to be making mistakes with track limits, because it's possible that for the front-wheel drive cars to go out, come back in and do a tyre cross, go out and get those up to temperature, and then go for a time, it could just be one flying lap within the 10 minutes, because it is a long lap around this 300 layout of Snetterton. So it's going to be interesting, that is for sure. And at the end of a rather damp FP2, the thoughts of the drivers could be teased out of them in the pit lane by Tim Harvey and Louise Goodman.
Well, it might be wet and miserable here in the Snetterton pit lane, but that has not wiped the smile off the face of this man, the man of the moment, Bobby T. Great to have you back.
Thank you very much. It's great to come back with a bit of colour as well. Add a bit of colour to the grid, our purple Zeus Cloud racing car. I'm loving it, absolutely loving it. I'm liking the rain at the moment. It's one stable condition all day for me to worry about, and I've got no pressure, just enjoy it.
Tim, you guys are loving the colour of that car, aren't you?
Yeah, it's the easiest one to spot, is it? So thank you for that. But, Bobby, you had that run out at Brands Hatch in the dry, but without any hybrid. So this is your first real experience of using the hybrid. How do you find it?
I've got to be careful with the right foot. I feel like I'm looking out the window a lot today. Yeah, there's just some different things coming from front-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive that are manageable. Just learning from the team at the moment. But from a hybrid standpoint, it's a bigger boost, a lot bigger boost. I've got a penalty, a late joining penalty, I suppose we should call it. So I only get 9 seconds over 15, and it's about managing where we put those perfectly, and we're going to go and talk about that in a minute.
You're making excuses for qualifying. You don't need to already, mate. You don't need to.
Well, I'm just trying to get some in the book ready. But yeah, it's that extra boost that we had from last year. It comes in slower, but you really realise it. And I think the closing speeds, I'm sure you've heard drivers already say, I think the closing speeds are going to be huge, especially here, long straights. So yeah, we'll find out, I suppose.
New car, new team, new systems. It's a lot to learn across the weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, hence why I say about keeping the track conditions the same. At the moment, I'm playing with wet lines. I could do with it staying like that, because I've got a mental note for each corner in my head. If it goes dry, we'll see.
All out the window.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what we're here to do, learn and take this weekend in. As I said, no pressure. I'm just here to enjoy it and show off a nice purple car.
P1 in the last 3 practice sessions, so no pressure at all there.
Yeah, you obviously over the winter, you know, racing drivers don't get to practice much like most other sports. Do you feel a little bit rusty in the car, timing-wise?
No, I feel okay. I had a lot of notes in my head from the Brands test. A lot of us are at these tracks in the weekdays and with coaching and bits and bobs like that. So I've actually been here for the last 3 weeks. Yes, in a truck on a laptop, but it's just being here and being around the environment. It keeps you in the swing of it. there's still some processes that are unique to touring car that, yeah, they wake you up pretty fast when, you know, getting in the way of people. It's, like I say, the closing speed is huge when you're not on a lap and someone else is. Just little things like that.
And your first time in a rear-wheel drive BTCC car, have you got the front-wheel drive driving style out of your head?
Yeah, I had to get rid of that fairly quick. There's some lines that are totally different that I tried in FP1 and they just didn't work. I was understeering past the corner and all sorts. So yeah, it's just a matter of learning. You know, I'm sure I'm in good hands. I've got John Waterman behind the laptop telling me what to do pretty much, and yeah, it's proving well.
Yeah, well, best of luck. He said you remind him of the old Jimmy Thompson, so same name, same results, hopefully.
Have a good one. We'll see you later. See you later. It is in at the deep end, isn't it?
Well, it is actually. You know, you can see there's a little bit of nervousness in him. You know, despite all of his BTCC experience, to come into a championship-winning team. Let's face it, he hasn't really been with a top team before. No disrespect to anyone, but you get in with West Surrey with 3 great teammates, and there's a lot of pressure on him, and he's feeling that. But I think he's settled in remarkably quickly. But there'll still be a lot of learning going on in the car.
And these conditions, they're not really helping anybody, are they?
Well, they're not. I mean, it probably actually helps those with little hybrid allocation. He gets a late entry penalty, so he only has the hybrid for 9 seconds in qualifying, the equivalent of 5th in the championship. That's what he was trying to explain. A little bit of a penalty, but in the wet conditions, the hybrid doesn't make quite so much difference. So that probably is in his favour.
Well, we're now outside the garage of a man. I want to see if I can grab a word. We just thought the minis are just getting all lined up here to get ready for their next session. But yeah, he's on his way over. Winner last time out at Brands Hatch, Ronan Pearson. What was it like when you got back home after that victory last time out? How long did it take to sink in?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't even know if it still has, to be fair. I was on cloud 9 for at least till we arrived here and went out in FP1. Back down to earth a little bit now with the weather, I would say. But yeah, I felt like I was living in a little bit of an out-of-body experience, if I'm honest.
What's it like coming here now off the back of that? I mean, it's a reset scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool. Firstly, I've had so many messages and obviously other drivers showing their support and saying well done. It's been really, really cool, really nice, and being in the winners circle now, it means a lot. Really proud of that. But coming here, obviously we've got so much momentum, so much confidence to carry forward now and know that we can do it again.
Does it make a big difference? Well, they do say you don't know how to win until you got that win, and then when you have, it's like, okay, this is what I'm aiming for now.
Yeah, it definitely does. I always viewed it as a case of when and not if. But we had a real strong start to the season at Donington in qualifying in race 1, and then we had a real run of bad luck, and you think, is this ever going to click? You wonder why you do it sometimes, but you just have to keep your head high, know that you can achieve something special, and we've got a great package here, so it was a case of not giving up, keep the head screwed on straight and try and deliver what we could.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good to bounce back from a bad weekend with a good weekend, wasn't it? And the power steering problems you had up at Donington, come back at Brands like that was obviously fantastic. The thing that really impressed me is just how you held your head together, because when you're laps away from winning your first, you can't tell me there weren't thoughts going through your head.
Yeah, the digital board over the start line's the worst. I looked up at one point, I remember it said lap 10 of 24. I thought, oh man, this is going to be the longest race. You work so hard to be on the grid and put everything together, and then you're wishing your time away when you're out there. There was a couple of noises, vibrations and things like that. They were starting to stress me out, and I knew that obviously Ingram had had a puncture. But obviously
he wasn't the only one.
He wasn't there. You're not going to let that go. But yeah, I'm really chuffed with how I handled myself. I haven't put a foot wrong at the first 2 rounds of the year, and it was a case of when it would click, and hopefully luck would be on our side.
And you've got a really strong package, haven't you, this year? The car and everything is working really well together. I know there are always the odd mechanical things that happen to anyone, but the car is really good this year.
It really is, yeah. Credit to the team over the winter, because from the minute I stepped back in it in pre-season, the double test day at Brands Hatch, I knew that we had something way stronger and something almost more suited to me as well, and I think that's shown straight away in every session that we've gone out, and it just seems to keep clicking. Even in the wet, we've got a stronger car so far this weekend than what I did have last year.
Just tell us quickly what the changes were that made it suit you slightly better.
can't give too much detail, but last year I felt a lot of the time I was more of a passenger to the car, whereas I can tell it what I want it to do now, and it reacts how I like. So it's really predictable. Obviously, yeah, as a rookie coming in, it was always tough because you didn't have too much testing, and these guys are going straight out and getting on it in each FP session in quali. So I was always playing a little bit catch up, whereas now I've not got that excuse this year. I'm well acclimatised to the car and the circuits that we go to, so all that's also come to fruition, and as a package, you know, I'm in a way better position as well, along with the car. But yeah, the main thing has been predictability and getting it to do what I want.
Yeah, it makes a difference when you're on top of the car. Well done, fantastic.
Well done.
Right, good luck this weekend.
Good luck this weekend as well. There's one more man waiting down here I want to have a word with as well, and in fact, it's the man that's Ronan is battling against for the all important Jack Sears Trophy. Come on in. Come and join us, Mikey Doble. I have to say, you're looking quite good here so far this weekend. P6 in that last session, that all-important P6. How good would it feel to be there in qualifying this afternoon as well?
Absolutely. I mean, we've been getting better and better as the day's gone on. You know, it was P7 this morning, P6 in that session, right in the mix. So,
how tough is it going to be to get into that group?
I mean, nothing's easy in the touring cars, but I think we've had lots of good laps. So it's not just been one lap, we've been sustaining a good lap time all morning, and I think that's going to be key to getting through the sessions, is to do it in 3 separate sessions. So yeah, hopefully we'll have a good chance.
The the Vauxhall's always been quite good in the wet, hasn't it? It seems to just like the conditions. Have you just got a good setup for it, or is the car just naturally good in it, or are you just a brilliant driver in the wet?
I'd like to say it's all down to me and it's all down to the driver, but no, if you look, I mean, the Astra always goes well in the wet. From the moment I first got in the car last year, it was wet and the car felt great. I think it's quite a compliant car, you know, it's quite predictable, you know what it's going to do, and we saw last year with Andrew and Aaron and myself at times, we had some really good wet races, so you can just go out there with confidence as a driver and just try and build on it lap on lap and just really refine your driving rather than thinking more about what's the car going to do.
I haven't seen which group you're in for qualifying. Which group are you in? The one with all the BMWs or the one with all the Napa Fords?
None of them sound great, but I think I'm in the one with all the Fords because I'm the evens and obviously Bobby was P1,
yeah,
so
right.
At least I've got one less car in my group though.
Yeah,
so
yeah, there'll be four Napa Fords in your group then.
Nice, okay. I'm sure we can beat some of them. So.
You're looking forward to that challenge, I can see.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a challenge, and I've beat them all before at Silverstone last year, so I'll try and beat them again today.
Are you enjoying just a quick last one, are you enjoying the new qualifying format?
I love it, yeah. I mean, I think that half an hour in these cars kind of just going round and round. Yes, we had pit stops, but it was kind of it's half hour for one lap. Yeah. Now you've got to deliver on 3 separate laps, and I think it causes more upsets in the order. You're going to have a more shuffled order for race 1, which means more overtaking. So what's not to like? Yeah.
We'll let you go and get yourself ready for it then, and we'll see you back out on track soon.
Best luck, Mikey.
Back to you, David.
Louise, thanks. So, the rain has stopped for the moment. It is still a damp circuit, but it is drying. And these are the groups then, getting set for the first part of qualifying. Group 1 will be Bobby Thompson, Jake Hill, Colin Turkington, Rob Huff, and his home circuit, at which he's not raced for 20 years. Ronan Pearson, our most recent winner in the championship. Tom Ingram, Andrew Watson, Tom Chilton, Aidan Moffat, Scott Sumpton, and Nick Halstead. Group 2, Dan Camish, Ash Sutton, Mikey Doble, Dan Rowbottom, Aaron Taylor-Smith. So you've got 3 Napa Fords and the 2 Pan Max Vauxhalls going head-to-head. Adam Morgan, Chris Smiley, Josh Cook, Daryl De Leon, and Sam Osborne to put all the Napa Fords into that same group. So that is how they will divide. And because of the weather conditions, we're just a little bit behind the timetable here. So the British Formula 4 Championship race has just finished and they need to be brought back around to the pit lane before we can get the touring cars ready to go. In terms of hybrid allocation, as far as the groups are concerned, well, it is going to be for Ash Sutton in qualifying 1 second a lap. Colin Turkington will have 3, Tom Ingram 5, Jake Hill 7, Josh Cook 9, Aidan Moffat 11, Tom Chilton 13, everybody else except Bobby Thompson 15. Bobby Thompson gets 9 seconds a lap as a sort of late entry penalty. If you remember in the days of ballast, you would have a kind of mid-grid ballast allocation if you were late into the championship, and the same applies with hybrid. So it's 9 seconds a lap and 5 laps use rather than the full 8 for the first race. Only lasts for qualifying and race 1. Then Bobby Thompson will carry the hybrid based on wherever he finishes in race 2, and then again, race 1 and then again for race 2 going through the day. So the teams are on the pit apron. We are getting ready with 4 minutes to go before the pit lane opens. 4 minutes to go. Look at Scott Sumpton and Chris Smiley's Restart Racing Cupras. The Toyota Gazoo Racing Corolla of Andrew Watson in the background. So basically the cars coming out nose first and then are being turned round so the teams can yank them back onto the fast lane and release. Colin Turkington is already ensconced in the car, good to go. Bobby Thompson then, having topped the second free practice session, it was Jake Hill who topped the first. And so are the BMWs going to have it all their own way? Well, some of that is going to depend on the weather conditions. So, Tim Harvey, where do we start? Do we focus on the weather? Do we focus on the lap length and how many laps the front-wheel drive cars can get in? Where do you want to go?
Well, the first thing is that being the longest lap of the season, it takes longer just to get out and do a timed lap, which means that if your tyre choice is uncertain, you've got to do pit stops. It takes that much longer. This situation is reminiscent of the first race at Donington, if you remember, where we had a drying track in qualifying, and we weren't sure what tyres people were on. People were unsure whether to stay on wets, change to slicks, whether they would come in time. Quite difficult, so we're going to have to try and keep you abreast of it. At the moment, I've seen all the cars come out on wets. Obviously, all the cars have to be out in the pit lane so as not to have a repeat of the Rob Huff situation at Donington, where the car wasn't in the pit lane before the start. So whether you're in Group 1 or Group 2, you have to be out there. The reason why the cars are all having to be turned round is because after free practice 2, they're reversed into the garages for the cars to be worked on. But in a live situation, they have to be parked nose in so they can be pulled backwards into the pit lane. So it's a bit of a kerfuffle, but they have to turn all the cars round. Those are the wet tyres.
If you're a front-wheel drive team, are you going to be able to do more than one flying lap in 10 minutes?
Oh, yes.
You'll be okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're on wets, you're not going to cross them anyway. So it's only the slicks that you're going to cross. But if it starts to dry and you think it's going to be slicks, you haven't got time to come in, put slicks on, do a lap and cross them over and get back out. That's the danger. Whereas the BMWs can just bolt 4 tyres on and go.
Go round and round and round, yeah.
But at the moment, the quite distinctive Goodyear wet sidewall marking is very clear. But we'll see what happens when we get everybody onto slicks, hopefully.
Yeah, because it's not a cold day. It might not look like the end of May, and certainly not as warm as we'd like, but it is warm enough. It's not that windy, though, so there's no breeze helping to dry the road. But we'll see in a few moments' time what the first set of times are going to be like.
Said the man wearing his puffer jacket, his fleecy puffer jacket. I think it's cold.
You reckon?
Yeah, it is cold. And there's not much breeze, but... and we certainly know sunshine anyway to dry it out, but I'm not sure how quick it dry. One thing the drivers have all said after the free practice in the wet, it was extremely slippery, extremely greasy. They were experimenting with lines. I mean, we saw quite a few cars go off, didn't we, collecting grass and the thing. It was extremely slippery. So, and this is now a little bit drier again, but quite often on the wet tyres, you actually go through a stage when it's drying, where the track is greasy and less grippy than when it's actually fully wet.
Aaron Taylor-Smith there, just being strapped in, chatting to Charlie Broughton, his engineer. Aaron had an electrical gremlin earlier on in the day in FP1, so he didn't get a time in the first practice session. That's a way to travel.
He's one of only 5 drivers currently on the grid that have won a race here.
Is that right?
It is.
There you go. And the PowerMax team have won all of the Jack Sears Trophy and independent battles in the 6 races thus far. So it's a busy pit lane as we get set then for Q1 Group 1. Remember, it is Bobby Thompson, Jake Hill, Colin Turkington, Rob Huff, Ronan Pearson, Tom Ingram, Andrew Watson, then Tom Chilton, Aidan Moffat, Scott Sumpton and Nick Halstead, who will be taking to the circuit. And the green flag is shown then, so we are in business. The clock starts, and so does the scramble as we look down from the drone, as the BMWs, or at least 3 of the 4, are good to go. Colin Turkington then, Jake Hill, Bobby Thompson. they go out in their order in the pit lane rather than in an order of FP2. The FP2 times puts you in the group, but then it's where you are in the pit lane that will determine when you go out. So we're in business, and the field making its way on a damp circuit down towards the first corner at Britches.
One thing to keep an eye on when you're looking at lap times is that in free practice we were basically doing 2 minutes and 2 minutes and 10 seconds, whereas in the dry the lap time is 1 minute 54, 1 minute 55. So about 15 seconds slower than a dry time. So what we're looking for is a lap time that gets to within at least 10 seconds of that before it's going to be slicks. So that will give us an idea of the pace that's in the track.
But also it's going to be interesting to see how far through the session we are before representative lap times come up, because 10 minutes is all they get for each of these segments, and we've had over a minute already, and they haven't even got round to start a flying lap in the BMW's case. So the BMs, in a sense, are slightly advantaged, not only because of the rear-wheel drive, but also being at pit out.
Yeah, I think that definitely helps because they're already half a lap ahead, as you say, as the end. Even though we've only got half the grid going out, it's still an advantage because that grid is split by garages. You could still be at the end garage, even if there's only half the grid going out. But what it does show, you can see the lines being made into the damp track there. Not a huge amount of spray, but it's the track is going to get quicker, isn't it, as they go as it goes through this session. The question will just be whether it will be slick. I don't think in this short session it's going to get to slicks. I really don't, but it could still get quicker during the session.
Yeah. Okay, so they have not yet completed the outlap, and we've had 2 minutes done.
Yeah, and there's the first look of Bobby Thompson's car, the Zeus Cloud BMW, looking very resplendent in its purple livery, and Bobby thoroughly enjoying being back on the grid, and now obviously running with West Surrey Racing, and his first time in a rear-wheel drive touring car.
The car has been dubbed Barney by Jake Hill. You can tell that Jake, as a new dad, has been watching children's TV. I think there's a dinosaur or a dragon, which is purple, called Barney. Barney, the car has become known as. Bobby Thompson, absolutely delighted to be back behind the wheel. It's been a stressful period to get everything in place, but now, helmet on, back in the car, he can concentrate on that. So, with 7 minutes on the clock, now they are on to a flying lap. This takes me back to that earlier point about the number of laps available for some of the cars, depending on whether you're front-wheel drive or rear, where you are in the queue, because 10 minutes around here doesn't give you that much time for many laps.
No, it really won't. And I mean, the difficulty will be that you do your best laps on wet tyres when they're absolutely brand new and the edges are all sharp. But the track is actually going to dry out during this, even during this 6 minutes that remain. So they're going to have to push on. You could see Jake Hill sliding the car out of the corner there. A lot of power in these cars, remember.
Interesting as well, standing trackside this morning, just listening to engine notes going up and up and up as people suddenly discover where the traction wasn't. Okay, some were in the free practice sessions just exploring what grip was available on a slick tyre. Now you're riding on board with Tom Chilton, and he is pushing. You can see that there's an element of caution having to be employed, but Tom Chilton, with all of his experience, then pressing on as he wriggles his way from the infield section, now heading up towards eventually Bentley Straight and then the speed building, and we've got just 6 minutes to go, and of course nobody as yet has got through for a time. Rob Huff has been into the pits and back out.
An interesting strategy. Maybe he was going in to cross his tyres over and get some warmer rears on from the front, but he's lost a lot of time in doing that. Or he's thinking, I know the track will be better right at the end, I want to save my tyres until the very end before I push flat out, but it's always wise to get a bank lap here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we'll keep an eye as you ride on board with Colin Turkington then, wiper on, and pressing on in pursuit of Jake Hill then. Colin Turkington, Jake Hill, Bobby Thompson, the BMW drivers in this session. Adam Morgan will go into Group 2, and Rob Huff, as I say, back out on track. So at the end of this lap, times are going to come, as Tim was saying, in free practice in the wet. 2 minutes 10 was where we needed to be looking, but a 1:54 would be pole position of last year. They're not going to get near that in this, but we'll see how close they can get. As a 2:11 for Jake Hill is compared with Colin Turkington's lap time of a 2:12, and that's half the session gone.
Incredible, isn't it, how quick it goes, with only the first laps being registered for lap times now.
Tom Ingram goes through, goes second on a 2:12. And Ronan Pearson goes second, so coming here on the crest of a wave after that fabulous win at Brands Hatch. There is Ronan Pearson, and he is 0.4 of a second down on Jake Hill, who also wants to rebuild after Brands, because it was a tough weekend for Jake.
Yeah, it didn't work out as he'd hoped at his home track. So much support for Jake down in Kenton, especially Brands Hatch, where he's grown up around and started his racing career, but just didn't work out for him. So we'll watch the splits at the moment. Hill has the fastest split of anyone in Sector 1 on this next lap. So we'll see if he carries on this pace. Car squirming about. When they're on the hybrid, they've got over 430 horsepower.
In far from ideal conditions. Jake Hill then, absolute best Sector 1. We'll see whether anybody can go quicker. We also need to see what a Rob Huff lap is going to be like, because we haven't yet got one out of Rob. He's out of sequence, having made that pit stop. He's the only person who has pitted. Jake Hill on the hybrid now, look, going down Bentley Straight, speed building. Comes towards us then underneath the bridge, down towards the S's. And he has done the target time of a 2:11. At this point, it's about being in the top 6.
And did you see how he braked in the middle of the road, looking for for the grippiest parts? He's set the fastest second sector as well, so he's well on course to set the quickest lap. And again, look how wide he goes. This is traditional, trying to find the grip on a track that's drying out, where the usual lines, look, all the way around the outside of Coram. Fascinating to watch where the drivers pick the grip up.
So Jake Hill should go quicker with 2 absolute bests, so into the 2:10s, 2:9s possibly, as he makes that run now up towards the timing line. 3 more minutes of this part of qualifying to go. He's run out of hybrid for the lap. He breaks the timing beam now, and that is in the 10s. 2 minutes 10.620, best lap of the session. That's Andrew Watson who is hustling on, but he's doing personal bests rather than absolute bests. Purple is really good, green is good, yellow is slower. And Jake Hill then was a little bit down in that last sector. Andrew Watson 9. Let's see what he can do here as the Works livery car. Toyota Gazoo Racing UK entered Corolla, comes up towards the timing line. Andrew Watson to break the beam, 9th at the start of the lap, and by the end of the lap goes 3rd quickest. Andrew Watson 2:11.993, good effort. And now we need to see a Huff time.
Yeah, let's see where Huff positions the car, and watching very carefully. Remember, Jake Hill really found some good lines. He braked in the middle of the road, coming down into the Brundle-Nelson chicane. Huff is on the more traditional line, which is where there's more rubber down, but whether there's more grip there or not, I don't know. His second sector is personal best, but not really competitive with a 46. So he's about 4/10 off, isn't he?
He is.
Even though he takes the wider line there through the bomb hole.
Nick Halstead has had a lap time disallowed for track limit offences. So with just under 2 minutes to go, Bobby Thompson here is 7th fastest, and he has now done an absolute best look within the first sector. So purple BMW, purple sector time, it's all fitting together quite neatly. Rob Huff's heading towards the line, but as Tim was rightly saying, he's a bit down compared to the BMs in the sectors, but we'll see whether he can get into the top 6, because that's the important part here. He goes second, in fact, on a 2:11.650. We've got just over a minute to go, and at the moment, Chilton is out, Thompson is out, Moffat is out, Sumpton is out, Halstead is out, and Thompson needs to be in.
But he's got an estimated result of second, look, there's on the graphic there, so he couldn't really move up. All depends on this third sector.
Tom Ingram, therefore, is the man on the bubble. Ingram is 6th, and he could get dumped out of this if he's not careful. Now, Ingram is still out on track, but he's not improving in sectors, so Tom Ingram might be able, should be able, in fact, to squeeze one more lap out of this, and he'll have to improve, especially given that we're expecting Bobby Thompson to get into the top 6 as he comes then now out of the old Russell sequence of corners up towards the end of the lap then. So Bobby Thompson with an absolute best and a personal best on this lap. He is 8th at the start of it. He comes up towards the timing line, and Bobby Thompson goes second quickest, and that dumps Tom Ingram out of the quick 6.
Well, the estimate was right. He did indeed come through in second place. And there is 20 seconds on the clock, so he has the option to take another lap. He will be his last.
Right, we need to watch Ingram because he's 7th, and that means he's not progressing unless he can dig deep. Ronan Pearson is now the one on the bubble, so it's Pearson 6th.
And this will be his last lap. You see again how he braked in the middle of the road initially. So this is a really crucial lap for Ingram. He hadn't shown any pace real pace in free practice 1 or 2. I thought, or we thought in the pit lane that he was sandbagging, just going round on old tyres, but we haven't seen a real quick lap yet.
Tom Chilton is in the pits and therefore out of qualifying because he's 8th. Aidan Moffat is out as well. He's taken the flag. Scott Sumpton has yet to finish, but he's 10th, and Nick Halstead has gone. He's 11th. So it is Ingram to get in at the expense of his teammate Ronan Pearson.
But he's 9/10 off on the very first sector.
Ain't going to happen, is it? So Bobby Thompson up to 2nd behind Jake Hill. So Hill, Thompson, Huff, Turkington, Watson, Pearson would be the 6 to progress provisionally.
Well, already I'm saying great effort by Bobby Thompson. That really is. He's 6/10, albeit behind Jake Hill, but ahead of Turkington.
So Tom Ingram heading up towards the line. I wonder whether he's going to finish this lap actually or bail, because if he's not improving, there's not really much point staying out. Bobby Thompson has come then now up through the S's. The checkered flag is out. Has Thompson taken the flag? Not yet, I don't think. Not shown as having taken the checkered flag, as Tom Ingram comes through the S's. But a really frustrating session this for Tom Ingram. And after not getting to Q3 at Brands, seemingly he's not going to get to Q2 here.
No, but interesting, Bobby Thompson is working with John Waterman, who was Colin Turkington's engineer since 2020. And interesting, John Waterman used to work with James Thompson back in Honda days, and he says there are a lot of similarities in their driving. Yeah, terrific effort, and indeed we've got Ingram bailing back into the pit lane, and he is out.
So those that will go through are Jake Hill, Bobby Thompson, Rob Huff, Colin Turkington, Andrew Watson, and the 6th of them is going to be Ronan Pearson. So those are the 6 that progress. And in the case of Tom Ingram, you would say perhaps it was more down to a lack of pace than the weather, given what Tim was saying about free practice. So there's clearly something not right for the 2022 champion. He'll get out of the car in a moment and be, no doubt, very disappointed. 2 minutes 10.620 then is the time for Jake Hill. That becomes the target, if you like, to compare the next group with. Let's just have a look at the order then. So Jake Hill the fastest by 0.6 of a second, which is quite a margin, over Bobby Thompson, Rob Huff 3rd, Colin Turkington 4th, Andrew Watson 5th, and Ronan Pearson 6th. And this part of qualifying is about progressing. It's not necessarily about doing the absolute fastest lap, it's getting into that 6. But those that didn't are Tom Ingram, then Tom Chilton, Aidan Moffat, Scott Sumpton and Nick Halstead. So they are the drivers that get bumped out of it. And for Tom Ingram to go so early, that is the first big talking point.
Definitely big shock so far. We'll obviously have to see how big championship rival Ash Sutton gets on in the next sector, because he only has 1 second of hybrid use, which is near as damn it as much use as a chocolate fireguard, isn't it? Around a track where hybrid makes a big difference. Long uphill section out the final corner, Murray's up the centre straight past the start finish line, a really crucial place to use the hybrid, and it's probably worth as much as 3/4 of a second. So the 2 big talking points are Bobby Thompson's performance straight away, standout performance, quickest in free practice 2, second quickest in the first sector, and here is Ingram disconsolately climbing out of his Hyundai.
So I think Tom Ingram is going to head to the garage rather than hang around to be spoken to. But once he's had a quick word with Spencer Aldridge, his engineer, he may be a little bit more communicative.
Aloise will chase him down,
yeah,
I've no doubt.
Exactly.
I've no doubt indeed.
Now Bobby Thompson, of course, has to quickly reset because the pit lane's going to open in about 3 minutes' time to get the cars back on track. The clerk of the course, Ian Watson, saying the gap's going to be reduced from 5 minutes to 3 from the last car entering its pit bay to get the next part of the session underway. But it might be even quicker than that because there's a lot to get through at Snetterton today. So quite a few of the support races carried over from Donington are going to be run, if possible, today. So there's a busy timetable to have to rattle through as well. But the second group of cars will be getting set very shortly. They, remember, are Dan Camish, Ash Sutton, Mikey Doble, Dan Rowbottom, Aaron Taylor-Smith, Adam Morgan, Chris Smiley, Josh Cook, Darrell De Leon and Sam Osborne.
I mean, I think that the green flag should go as soon as the last car hits its pit bay.
And almost what's happened, hasn't it? We've had very little time, not because the cars in Group 1 aren't relevant to Group 2, so just crack on. You can understand if you've got to get cars from one part of the session to the next, it'll take a little bit longer just to do the odd tweak. But these cars, unaffected, go pouring out on circuit. Right, this is going to be an interesting one now because the road might be a little bit drier. We know that 2 minutes 10.6 is the target to compare against.
But 2 minutes 10.6 is slower than they went in the full wet of free practice when they did 2 minutes 10.1.
Yeah.
So that element where I say the track actually doesn't get any quicker because it's greasy, we're in that element. And they're going to get so few laps with fewer cars on track. I don't think we're going to get to certainly in this sector, I don't think we're going to get to a slick situation. We might do in the final part, and I say might, but it's not drying that quick, is it?
No, true. Great shot from the drone looking down onto the new-ish layout of Snetterton. What do we have this, 10 years plus? But it shows the nature of the corners with the hairpin, with the fast left, straights, and that sort of paperclip infield. Now, Jake Hill, fastest in the first part of Q1. Not a bad effort. He's with Louise.
Yeah, he's staying nice and warm inside the car. Jake, good session.
Yeah, very good, Lou. I loved it, to be fair. The car's just really well balanced. I can put it where I want. It's a massive change compared to Brands.
I was going to say, this is what you needed, really, wasn't it, to bounce back this weekend after a real shocker last time out?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I mean, it happens to the best of us, you know. But, I mean, I'm super proud of the team. You know, Laser Tools Racing, Venue Motorsport have done a brilliant job. Turn it round. We're in a real good place at the moment. Let's just keep it going.
How much did the track improve in that session?
Honestly, not a lot. It felt a lot like it did at the end of FP2. A little bit drier. But there's not a lot in it. It's still very greasy at the minute, and I'm not actually sure if it's going to dry by the end of it.
So you don't think there's going to be much improvement next time you go out? Or I guess in a way you're hoping it's going to stay similar, so at least you know what you're facing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, we've got a really good damp/wet car at the minute. It's working incredibly well, and you know, yeah, I want it to stay like this. I mean, we've still got a bit of sprinkle. As long as that keeps coming, I think the track's going to stay consistent.
Cool. See you out there for the next one. Back to you guys.
Louise, thanks. You're looking at Josh Cook, who is going to try to do what Aidan Moffat didn't, and that's move his LKQ Euro car parts with Cinetic Toyota into the next part of qualifying. As we've been saying in the past, this is about not being slow, really, getting into that top six to progress. And Josh Cook coming down there towards the end of the outlap. Adam Morgan has gone through and pursued by Dan Rowbottom.
I wonder if any of the engineers were watching the coverage of the first session to see where the Jake Hill was using the lines around the track to get quicker. But look, we're still making marks on. Can you see where the tyres are making marks through the wet on the track?
Yeah.
So it is still drizzling out there. That the other session didn't really look. It's just as wet as it was at the start of the first session. So there's enough drizzle still in the air. I think we're going to be in exactly the same situation now as we were in the Group 1.
I just wonder whether it might not even be wetter, because I think there's more evidence of wipers on than we had. It might be worse conditions slightly for these drivers. There's certainly more spray, as you say. The road looks to have a fresh sheen across it.
Can't see it from our commentary box, but certainly visibly to the track and the wiper situation, it looks definitely like they're using more. There's more rain.
That's Aaron Taylor-Smith then in the Evans Halshaw with Power Max Racing Vauxhall Astra. And we know that Aaron is always quite spectacular in the wet conditions and loving being up near the front of the field as he was at Brands Hatch. Very hard to find Aaron without a big smile on his face. He's just a great character to have in the championship, and we know he can drive as well. He went away for a season or two to play in GT racing and has come back into touring cars and has found a nice fit with Adam Weaver's Power Max Racing squad. However, at the end of this lap, we need to start looking at times, and Adam Morgan and Dan Rowbottom are going to be the first two across the line. But Ash Sutton behind has gone even quicker within the first sector. He's only got a second lap of hybrid and he's used it already on this lap. But look, purple. Now, I know it's his first lap, but he's not the first car in the queue. So there are people ahead of him on the road who he is going quicker than.
One of the Toyotas said twitching. I think it had to be Cookie, but it has to be twitching as he came into view. But one of Ash Sutton's great strengths is his ability to switch it on very quickly, whether it's on cold tyres, whether it's on the first lap. I was talking to the Napa drivers and they were asked one of the questions, who would be quickest if you had to go to the Goodwood Festival Speed Hill Climb, and they all said Ash because he can switch it on so quickly.
Well, he goes fastest, 2:11.342, ahead of Robo and ahead of Morgan. And then Camish goes second. So the fleet of Fords comes over the line. There's Josh Cook. He goes third fastest now. And we're already into the second half of this allotted time. That's Chris Smiley going by. And he will be fourth, getting a replay of Sam Osborne going straight on at the end of the Bentley Straight, threading his way back onto the circuit. Sam discovering that life in a touring car is a bit lower than it was in the truck. He was racing last week at Pembrey. He thought that was great fun, wants to do it again, but he's now having to adapt to ground level again.
Yeah, and a very different type of machinery, but he actually becomes the first Napa racing driver, well, of the 4 touring car drivers to get a win this year, doesn't he? It will be in Division 2 of truck racing at Pembrey.
A win's a win. So we've got cars tiptoeing round. It's still very, very greasy. Great to watch. Massively frustrating for drivers, having to be so patient with the throttle. Right now, those that are out are Aaron Taylor-Smith, Daryl De Leon, Adam Morgan, surprisingly, and Sam Osborne. But that can all change. You're looking at Adam Morgan going quicker on this next lap. Engineer Steve Farrell, the doubtable Australian, will be on the radio to him, telling Adam that he needs to push on. Adam will no doubt get the message. He's got Dan Rowbottom behind him, who is 5th. So the man on the bubble is Mikey Doble. He's 6th.
It definitely is wetter, though. There's spray coming off now. You're absolutely right. Adam Morgan had a couple of offs, actually, in free practice. One into gently nudging the wall at Oggies and another grassy moment. So hasn't all been plain sailing for that BMW driver.
Okay, so on this lap, can he improve? Interestingly, the majority of the drivers on this second flying lap are down in sectors 1 and 2. Not all, but they've not improved. There are a number of drivers that are slower in sector 1 and sector 2.
That's interesting, because you would expect that the first banker lap would be exactly that, and then they'd go a bit quicker.
Which makes me think it is deteriorating weather-wise. Over the line they come, all spots away on the camera lens. Right, over the line has gone Adam Morgan, and he's up into 6th. Rowbottom is up into 5th. It's Sutton, Camish, Cook, Smiley, Rowbottom, Morgan that are in. So Doble is out. Teammate Taylor-Smith is out. De Leon is out. And then Taylor-Smith improves to 7th, but that's not enough to get him in. And we've got 2.5 minutes on the clock. So at the moment, Adam Morgan, although he's in, is 6th. Is he in jeopardy? Well, actually, no, if the road's getting slower.
Yeah, and of course there isn't time to put another set of tyres on now or anything. It's just, you've just got to go with what you've got on the car. Yeah, I mean, Ash Sutton has a gap of 7/10 over teammate Camish, despite there being 14 seconds of hybrid availability difference between them in favour of Camish. So once again, Sutton is showing his wet weather prowess, isn't he?
Lap time taken off Sam Osborne for track limit offences. Aaron Taylor-Smith then heading towards us, but he is down in the first sector. I'm tempted to say we've got the top 6 already here, haven't we? And if the road is getting wetter and the times aren't coming, it may be that people pit early, because there's no point driving round and round and round and not improving. That's Mikey Doble. He'll be really frustrated after what he was saying to you, with an element of optimism after FP2, but it's just not happening, is it, with the track conditions deteriorating. He has gone fractionally faster within sector 1, but it's still not enough to get him into the ballpark.
Not at the moment, anyway. And you know, the wet tyres won't be liking this. There's only 1 minute and 15 seconds to go.
So I think we're almost done in terms of the session, and I think we are done in terms of an order. We've just had an improved speed in the middle sector by Dan Camish, but not an improved sector time. Aaron Taylor-Smith is still pushing because he needs to, look, because he's gone green. So the Astras are quickening, and they have to. Camish has found a bit of pace in the first sector, but there's not going to be a massive amount of shuffling, I don't think. Some will get another lap out of this, but the flag is imminent, look, with 46 seconds on the clock now. So there is the charging Aaron Taylor-Smith, and on this lap he was fractionally better in the second sector of the lap. Comes now down out of the last corner up towards the timing line, so Aaron Taylor-Smith heading up towards the beam, and when he breaks the beam, let's see, it's a 2 minutes 12, 2 minutes 13, and he has improved. He's into the top 6 at the expense of Adam Morgan, so 2:13.3. That means that by 54 thousandths, Aaron Taylor-Smith is in, and this man, Adam Morgan, is out, but he's got another lap on which he might be able to salvage a time.
Yeah, he's already on the lap, so we'll get to see what his first split is in a minute as he comes down to Agostini. That's the first split for Morgan. Is it a personal best, or is it? It is a personal best, 41.5. Which compares to Sutton's 41.1 first best sector.
we'll have to see whether he stays there, but recognition for Chris Smiley, fourth fastest in the Restart Racing Cupra, who has sneaked in there almost unnoticed, but after a sort of pretty hectic start to the season, developing, learning about the car, getting the team to all knit together, for Chris to progress, that would be quite something. He did get to Q2 at Donington, but a repeat performance here will be quite something.
Yeah, he did that lap early on when all the laps came in, and we sort of didn't give it enough credit because we assumed all the laps would get quicker, but it is a very credit-worthy performance by Chris Smiley.
Indeed so. Right, Adam Morgan then is in Sector 1
and
quicker and Sector 2 quicker, so this has the potential to bump out Aaron Taylor-Smith,
who is not going quicker on his next lap.
No.
In fact, he's backed off.
Okay, Dan Rowbottom was quicker in Sector 1 and down in Sector 2, but equally Mikey Doble is still pushing and Daryl De Leon is still pushing. So they've improved. Having said that, we might well have an order. All of a sudden, I think the road has come back to the drivers and there's time to be found. We've had that slightly strange mid part of the session where the road went slower and now it's a little quicker, only a fraction, but we might end up with a bit of shuffling. So let's see. Here comes a big deep breath and here comes Adam Morgan to the line, 7th at the start of the lap, and as he breaks the beam to end the session, he's up to 4th, so that knocks Taylor Smith out of it. Mikey Doble will come up in a moment. Dan Rowbottom goes up to 4th. Mikey Doble is the next one to watch. Dan Camish is 2nd and he goes across the line. Sutton has pitted, Doble goes through, and the net result is that he stays 8th. Doesn't improve, a slower lap, 2:14 in the end. Daryl De Leon was going quickly in Sector 1, and the Cupra comes up to cross the timing line, and Daryl De Leon's lap is not an improvement either. So Taylor Smith out, Doble out, De Leon out, Osborne out, and Sutton's top time of a 2:11.3, demonstrably slower than Jake Hill.
Yeah, although we do think the conditions were slightly different, so it still remains to be seen whether when they all match up in the final shootout, who will be quickest. But still, impressive performance by Sutton, and Chris Smiley did get through in 6th place, despite being bumped by Morgan and Rowbottom.
So we have our 2 groups of 6, and the drivers that will progress from this session are Ash Sutton, Dan Camish, Josh Cook, Dan Rowbottom, Adam Morgan and Chris Smiley. And a bit like Group 1, 6/10 of the second between the top 2. Out, though, go Aaron Taylor-Smith, Mikey Doble, Daryl De Leon and Sam Osborne. So those are the 4 that we lose, and now the teams have a short space of time to turn around the cars ready for Q2. Now this is where the track gets busier. Now we're up to 12 cars, because you've got the top 6 from the 2 groups that we've just watched. So 12 cars, 10 minutes again, and they will be Jake Hill, Bobby Thompson, Rob Huff, Colin Turkington, Andrew Watson, Ronan Pearson from Group 1, and Ash Sutton, Dan Camish, Josh Cook, Dan Rowbottom, Adam Morgan and Chris Smiley from Group 2. Colin Turkington there, thinking his way through the lap.
Visualising his lap, as he does all the time, just concentrating on where he thinks he might make up a bit of time or might have made mistakes, or bits he got right, but just visualising the lap to be fully focused when it's time to go.
Adam Morgan heading back to the pit lane, and as soon as the last car is in, the clock starts. 3 minutes to get the cars turned around ready for the continuation of qualifying into Q2. Right, it's going to be a really interesting mix this now. We've lost a few names, we've still got plenty of stars, and we've got to whittle half of them away. Look down from the drone onto that pit straight, and we'll see whether we can't grab a word or two with another of those rather disappointed drivers after that second group, because, as I say, yet again, there are some big names, whether they are race winners or pole position winners in previous seasons, that have gone. Mikey Doble, I think we might try and grab as his car arrives into the pit lane, and we'll get set in a few moments then for the green flag. And as you'll expect, the first minute or 2 will be of academic interest as cars go out and try and finish the outlap, and then as you creep towards the halfway mark, the times will start to come. There are the Napa Fords. Sam Osborne's car we've lost from qualifying, but the other 3 have got through. Sutton, Camish and Rowbottom all progress.
And obviously at this point we do have to have a bit of a gap, because the cars from Group 2 have only just arrived back, the ones that are going back out for the third part, if you like.
And of course, it's a long in-lap here anyway, bearing in mind that a flying lap has been 2 minutes 10, an in-lap is much, much slower. The fans trying to stay dry, enjoying themselves on qualifying day here. And if the cars aren't of interest, there's the face painting going on. Somebody's got themselves a Porsche flag as well, so turn their back on touring cars and looking for Porsches. So, as we get ready for the second part of qualifying, there Aaron Taylor-Smith gets out of the car, frustrated with that. But if anybody can, race well tomorrow and rebuild his weekend, Aaron is the man, experienced touring car driver, and he will be well worth watching, even though it's going to be from a lowly grid position. But third event that we've had this qualifying format, and for the third event in a row, it produces surprises. You can't, by sheer maths, have all the stars up at the front. Something's got to give.
I enjoy it. I think it's great. Josh Cook with his bicycle helmet painting. He's also got new boots on this weekend. It looks like he's got bare ankles, but they're painted boots. So he does like to be the fashion guru, doesn't he, of the drivers?
That's one description for it, yes.
And yours would be? Trendsetter.
Maverick.
Yes. Maverick, trendsetter. That's not what you said to me. No.
Oh, look, here's a bus. Throw me under it, Harvey. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, so Josh Cook, anyway, he gets through. That's the main thing. And teammate Aidan Moffat, sadly, didn't. So Aaron Taylor-Smith, I'm afraid to say, is out. But that does mean he can have a word with Louise.
Every cloud has a silver lining, David. That was frustrating, really, wasn't it? I certainly was expecting more from you guys, given where you've been at so far this weekend, and I think you probably were too.
Yeah, I think you have to assume that we would have been able to push on. I think the track just changed quite a bit from free practice 2 to quali. So probably grip levels dropped off quite a substantial amount, so the times dropped away. And we just lost a bit of performance, and I think, it's a combination of things. Probably we missed, obviously, FP1, which is life. But it's a shame. I think we got knocked out on the last lap by silly Adam Morgan. But that's what this qualifying's all about. And I think, we got knocked out in Q1 at Brands and still went on to have a great weekend. So I've no doubt we can do it again.
Well, as you say, all is definitely not lost. But it is one of the things about the way that these sessions run now. There is no time. I mean, you haven't got time to go out and think, car's not quite where I want it, which you would have done previously.
Absolutely. We probably would have boxed, made a change, and then been able to find another half second to a second. But unfortunately, you get probably 2 or 3 time laps in that 10-minute session around here. So if the track has evolved or changed in grip level at all, you don't really have a chance to respond. But it's the nature for everyone. At the end of the day, I can complain about it, or I can be like, chalk it up to there's no points on a Saturday and come out swinging tomorrow.
See you out there swinging tomorrow then. Cheers. Cheers, Aaron. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Louise. So, Aaron Taylor-Smith takes it on the chin. It's a long season. What goes around comes around, and we know he can race and get his elbows out, so he won't be at the bat for long tomorrow.
No, and there's inclement weather forecast for tomorrow as well, so he knows that there's every opportunity to progress forwards, and if it isn't, we've got the delight of 3 different tyre compounds to race on, so there's every opportunity to go forwards.
Right, we're in business then. This is Q2. Again, 10 minutes, 12 drivers, and we want to take 6 forward. So now it is about being quick. You've got to get through. You've got to set a good time because now you're up against more cars, and it's going to be very, very tough indeed. So out go just about everybody. At the back of the queue from his garage at Pit Inn is Chris Smiley, chasing after Josh Cook. And from the drone, looking down, coming out of Riches up towards the Wilson hairpin. And then the cars accelerate the other side of that down towards the left hand at turn 3, down towards the turn 4 hairpin of Agostini. Then up to Hamilton, to Oggies and to Williams. And that in turn takes them out onto Bentley Straight. Speed building all the time. You can see the marks being cut through the greasy track surface there. And again, getting a bit of clear track positioning is key here.
Each session has started looking very much the same with the track conditions, hasn't it?
Yeah,
so
indeed.
We're expecting very much the same in this session. But back down in the pits before we get any lap times, Louise is with Matt Neal.
Yeah, Matt Neal, who this weekend is helping out Restart Racing. Just tell us what you're doing for the team.
Just another pair of eyes and ears for it. Hi, Lou, anyway.
Hello. Well, it's nice to see you back. Are you enjoying being on this side of it?
Well, I've been on this side for about 3 or 4 years in BTC, haven't I? So yeah, I embrace it. It's a lot less pressure and stress this side of the garage.
Chris is doing well. Do you look at this new qualifying format and think, I'd quite like to be out there for that?
You want the honest truth? I was confused when I watched it on the box, and I'm even more confused now I'm here. But it is what it is. It's the same for everybody. I think the conditions are the tricky thing today. So it's just that sort of halfway house, you know, where it's actually slower as it gets drier. But yeah, I mean, we're really pleased with Chris to get into the top 6 in that one, and the top 12 overall into Q2. So all to play for.
What would be a good result for him and the team in qualifying today?
I think getting into Q2, into the top 12, is a great result. And you know, there's sort of the sharp end of the grid, and there's the second half of the grid. And I think he's done really well so far, and it's a great result. You know, we should be starting in I wouldn't say the safer part, but the right half of the grid.
Oh, great stuff. Lovely to see you here.
So Matt Neal overseeing this car of Chris Smiley, who we know has been a race winner in the past. He's been away for a couple of 3 seasons. He's won the TCR UK Championship, but always wanted to come back to the British Touring Car Championship itself, as Dan Rowbottom then goes across the line. So now we are onto a flying lap, and we've got 7 minutes of the session to go. There is Jake Hill, who was quickest, remembering Group 1 of Q1, and he will be the first driver to offer up a proper flying lap. Interestingly, the one driver that is out of position, if you like, all on his own, not running with the pack, is Rob Huff once again, who has got the run towards Coram now. Everybody else is on the other part of the circuit, either going round Riches or, in the case of Jake Hill, stretch all the way to the exit of Agostini. But Rob Huff is doing it his own way.
Well, let's see if he pits, because he did that last time, if you remember, in the first session. It looks he's going very slowly. He's only just come out the last corner. No, he's not pitting. He's building up. So he's just taken a little bit of time to build the temperature in his tyres. Maybe he thought the other cars would dry the track out just on their first lap, because there's plenty of grooves through the wet surface, isn't there? And he's effectively picking up the driest line.
Okay, so Bobby Thompson is the man to watch at the moment, because he, of those that have gone through Sector 1 on this first flying lap, has done the best. We need to get Rob Huff through that sector to put him in context. Jake Hill's looking good in the middle sector with a decent enough time. But at the end of this lap, our first look at a Q2 lap will come. And it's BMWs that were fastest in Group 1.
And that was a good first sector time as well. 40.7 is good. He wasn't quite as quick in Sector 2. He was 2 tenths down on Jake Hill, but nevertheless it's a good lap, and he's got Adam Morgan just to follow and pace himself off.
So this is Jake Hill up towards the line then, and as he gets towards the timing line itself, you'll see we're virtually at the halfway point of the 10 minutes. He's run out of hybrid for the lap. Jake Hill comes across the line and does a 2 minutes 9.732, very nearly a second quicker than he went in Group 1 of Q1.
That is the fastest time we've seen today. By comparison, Thompson was second quickest, but he's nearly half a second behind. So, we got a spin there. I think that's Adam Morgan. It is.
Yeah.
He's gone off. He's not having a good weekend of it. Just can't find the grippier parts of the track. But he spun at Riches. Fortunately, he can get restarted. That was in front of Bobby Thompson. But it is a tricky braking area. There's a lot of different tarmac on the braking for Riches, so it's easy to lock up. I think he probably just locked up the fronts. There he goes, rotated the car.
So around he goes.
But what we don't want is a yellow flag for a long time, do we? So
that's the other replay from the drone as he slithers off backwards. And the rain is getting heavier, we understand, at certain parts of the circuit. Not everywhere. Looking out of our window, there's a puddle in front of us, which is not having any water in it at all. But we're hearing from the cameraman that there is rain falling at certain parts of the circuit. So that makes life really difficult if it's not consistent all the way around. Rob Huff goes through and is 7th fastest with 4 minutes to go. But remember, it's the top 6 that matters here. And at the moment, the 6 are Hill, Thompson, Camish, Sutton, Cook, Watson. So out would be Huff, Rowbottom, Turkington, Smiley, Morgan, Pearson.
Yeah, so we'd have a shock then if Turkington went out, wouldn't we?
Of course, in the days of a 30-minute qualifying session, we regularly fell into the routine of talking about Colin Turkington being a long way down early on, and then right at the very end, he was up there. But it's a very different format over just 10 minutes. He doesn't have the luxury of building up. He's got to deliver straight away.
Exactly. And his forte has always been incremental gains, hasn't it? Not just going straight out Ash Sutton style, but you're seeing a lot of correction on the steering wheel, particularly out the slope. Look there, big slide from the rear, right at the worst point. Watch his traction out of here again, oversteer.
Now, Turkington has improved in Sector 1 and Sector 2, but again, most people, look at that graphic on the timing tower, yellows all the way around it for the majority of people. Turkington improves, but only to 8th, so he's still not in with just under 3 minutes to go. The road has got slower again.
Yeah, what's happening is that the road isn't really wet enough for these wet tyres, so they're actually overheating very quickly, which is why we saw, I think, Huff go slowly on his outlap. But they've all delivered their fastest laps really on their first proper flying lap.
And we've got just 2.5 minutes to go. Ronan Pearson goes through, and he has done 3 personal bests, but doesn't improve from 12th. So that's a real kick in the whatnots, isn't it? Ronan Pearson trying everything. Now, what about Rob Huff? He's only 7th, but he's down in sectors 1 and 2, so this lap isn't going to happen. Chris Smiley, 10th, has had a lap time disallowed for track limit offences. But I'm afraid it doesn't look that magical this lap for Rob Huff. He's got time to go again.
He's cruising. He's just cooling his tyres, I assume, for a final run, but he's definitely cruising at the moment. He can feel if his tyres are overheating, and he's so much experience. I'm guessing, let's see if he goes in the pits or he starts a flyer. He's starting a flyer because he's straightened the steering wheel. That means he'll get maximum traction. So he was just cooling his tyres for a lap.
And as we say, he's got time to do one more lap, only one more lap. So this is going to be very, very important. 7th, he needs to find 56 thousandths of a second to get ahead of his teammate Andrew Watson and be into the quick 6.
Yeah, let's see. No more fastest. There's a personal best for Jake Hill on the last lap. No, there's no big improvements coming that I can see, David.
Okay, this is Jake Hill, who is going to squeeze another lap out of this if he wants it. But I think he's safe. He doesn't have to carry on.
No, he's safe by half a second, so
he could pit.
Yeah,
but whether he will, we'll find out in a moment, because he hoofs it out of the last corner, the tail wags, and he does stay out.
I think he's just enjoying driving it, actually. He's having fun. He's got a good balance. He'll know. Craig's engineer would have told him he's half a second up.
Okay, so he was quicker than he had been in Sector 1, but he's down in 2 and 3. Adam Morgan still circulating, and Morgan is 11th. So he's got to somehow get in, but he might be able to squeeze one more lap out of it. Let's see. This is Rob Huff, and he has done a personal best in the first sector. So as long as he's in that top 6, even if it's 6th and he progresses, that's fine. Then the heroics can come in Q3. But we need to see whether he goes faster in the middle and the final sectors. He's on the hybrid now, Tim.
Yeah, and his teammate is the person that is on the bubble just in front of him. So Andrew Watson is the man he would depose if he can do it. He's gone through the second sector now, and it's not a personal best.
56 thousandths, though, is all he's got to find to go ahead of Watson. If he gets 55 thousandths, they'll tie, and Watson will progress because he did the time earlier. So Huff has got to be quicker by a thousandth, hence 56 thousandths of a second, and he comes into Coram now. So if Sector 1 were good enough to have in it those missing 56 thousandths, let's see. Down towards the end of the lap he comes. The flag is out, by the way, so this is the last roll of the dice for everybody. Andrew Watson's taken the flag, so he can do no more. He didn't improve, he stayed 6th, and Andrew Watson's lap didn't contain an improvement in any of the sectors. Right, Rob Huff, does he go into Q3? Does he get booted out? The answer is he's out. 7th, he doesn't improve.
It's actually 20 years since he won his first BTCC race, and that was here at Snetterton. But interestingly, did you notice he didn't take the wet line through the bomb hole and Coram, the wide line that we saw the BMW's taken? I wonder if he would have been a bit quicker if he'd used those lines. Of course, he hasn't actually raced here a great deal over the years because he's been abroad.
He's not raced since that win.
No, so
at Snetterton, he's not raced anything, whether it's a touring car or the family MGB or anything. So since that, yes, well, I double-checked this with him. For 20 years, he's not been here. Home circuit, all of that.
Yeah.
So he's never raced on the 300 layout.
So he didn't really have that experience at all, did he, of the wet, the wet lines?
Right, we've got the flag out, and Colin Turkington is 8th. And Colin Turkington then is coming up to the line. Is he in the pit lane? He's in. So Turkington is out. There's one of the big stories of the session. Huff gone, Turkington gone, Rowbottom gone, Smiley, Morgan, Pearson gone. Hill progresses, Thompson progresses, Camish, Sutton, Cook, Watson.
And Colin Turkington 1.2 seconds slower than teammate Jake Hill. That's a huge discrepancy. It's interesting how the performance ebbs and flows. Turkington was untouchable at Brands Hatch of the BMW trio.
Change at the end. Adam Morgan goes 6th at the expense of Andrew Watson. Adam Morgan is in. Last man to take the flag, and it was a really, really good lap because he's in. Adam Morgan goes through then. So that knocks Andrew Watson out, and the last person to progress, Adam Morgan, by the skin of his teeth.
And that was after a spin in the session, wasn't it? So he really did gather himself up and do a wonderful last lap.
And Andrew Watson now comes down the pit lane to be told, sorry, you were the first man to take the flag, but the last man bumped you out. So the two Works Toyotas have gone, and it's Josh Cook upholding Toyota Honour now in the satellite car. He progresses.
So the top 6 runoff is going to be Hill, Thompson, Camish, Sutton, 2 BMWs, 2 Napa Fords, Cook in the Honda, in the Toyota, Morgan in the 3rd BMW.
Can we also tip a hat to Ash Sutton? 1 second per lap of hybrid, and he's made it all the way to Q3.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I didn't doubt it for 1 second.
Which is all he had, yes.
But he was 7/10 slower. We weren't sure whether his session was quicker or not than the first, but he was 7/10 down on Hill. I can't see any, if the conditions stay the same, I can't see anybody beating Jake Hill for pole.
I think you might be right. I mean,
ask me who my predict from this for pole.
Too late now. Too late.
Don't want to play.
It's no fun if you've got all the data. It would be, if he were to do it, a 3rd career pole. But before we worry about Q3, let's go back to the pit lane. Let's find out who Louise has got with her now.
Well, I'm just standing by, waiting to see if I can grab a quick word with Colin Turkington. He's just having a word with his engineer at the moment. So Colin, oh bless him, has come over. Colin, frustrating and so near, but yet so far.
Yeah, you know, I'm inside the top 10. Unfortunately, I haven't made Q3, but yeah, that's the pace we have today. You know, with how the car is feeling, with the hybrid I have. You know, so it's probably a fair reflection, if I'm honest. So yeah, it's probably that's what I was expecting. You know, my expectations today, I didn't think I could get to Q3. So yeah, tomorrow's another day. Conditions could be similar to this, so you know we just have to battle through race 1. You know, with not too many laps of hybrid, and then hopefully it comes back to us a bit.
You say with the car you have, it sounds like it's not been the car you want all day.
Yeah, we're chasing the overall grip level. We have been all day, I would say. And again, it's been difficult because you know the track has been varying levels of not wet enough. You know, so every time you go out, it's like, oh, track's, you know, it's not so wet now, and then we end up we're probably too stiff for the conditions, and then so you're always just behind a little bit, but yeah, I'm happy enough. You know, it's probably where we are.
See you out there tomorrow.
Thank you.
So, philosophical Colin Turkington. Just to finish off the Ash Sutton eulogy, he is the only driver to have made it to Q3 in each of the 3 qualifying sessions we've had this year.
And the only driver to have podiumed in every race. It's telling you something, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. So,
because we've seen both Ingram and Turkington struggle now.
Yeah, exactly.
His closest challenges.
Yeah. So, we are ready for Q3. Again, 10 minutes, 6 cars. And they will be those of Jake Hill, Bobby Thompson, Dan Camish, Ash Sutton, Josh Cook and Adam Morgan. So you've got 3 BMWs, you've got 2 Fords, and you've got 1 Toyota as Josh Cook gets ready to go. And very shortly, we'll get a green flag. It's 3 minutes, in theory, the time once the last car arrives at its pit bay. Those drivers that don't have much work to be done will be ready to go as soon as. Adam Morgan, of course, the last man to take the flag, the last man into the pit lane. And Steve Farrell, his engineer, will be making sure that everything is good before they release the car ready for the final part. So just those 6 drivers to go. And before we get into Q3, let's just remind ourselves of the classification at the end of Q2. Jake Hill then is the fastest from Bobby Thompson. Dan Camish in 3rd, Ash Sutton 4th, Josh Cook 5th, Adam Morgan just in at the end a thousandth slower than Josh Cook, but he's in, and the margin between Hill and the rest, 0.4 of a second this time. We lose Andrew Watson, Rob Huff, Colin Turkington and Dan Rowbottom, and Andrew Watson so unlucky. Thought he was in and then bumped out Louise by the last car to take the flag.
Yeah, we were just having that conversation. I just said to Andrew, I thought you were in there, and your response was?
Me too. Yeah, Adam actually caused the yellow flag, which I had to abort. I was up, so I had to abort it because of Adam. And then he got going again and knocked me out, so fair play.
That's a bit mean, frankly, isn't it? But I suppose the good news is it looks like you've got a good car underneath you.
Yeah, today hasn't been plain sailing. This morning was, just really loose and, struggling with the car. So FP2 was like a reset, start again for the weekend, and it was a bit better. And yeah, fair play to my engineer. He made a few suggestions that I was a bit confused about where to go, and he came up with a few good ideas, and they worked. So again, we executed pretty well. We've been pretty comfortable in qualifying. So yeah, who knows what's going to happen this weekend? But yeah, we're still in the mix.
I guess it looks like we're going to have sort of similar conditions to this tomorrow. So at least you've got a good starting point for the rain.
Yeah, I've given up looking at the forecast, but yeah, I've done well in these changeable conditions before, and it offers a lot of opportunities, and you've got to be smart. Not always about outright pace, but I think in all conditions we're all improving the car, all four of us, and that shows on track. So yeah, I'm happy with today. It's it was a tough start, and I can't really complain about P7.
Cheers.
Thanks.
So Andrew Watson goes no further, but Josh Cook in another of the Toyotas will be through. It's getting a bit brighter. Sun's coming out just to tease the teams for the final 10 minutes, which are underway. Green flag is, as you can see, being waved, and the cars are already making their way down the pit lane onto the circuit. Morgan, Hill, Thompson, Sutton, Camish, Cook the order as they broke the beam at pit out, and we are in business then as the clock ticks on down for these remaining 10 minutes of qualifying, and a fascinating session it has been.
Slick tyres on Josh Cook's car, slick tyres, and that looks dryish there through Riches.
So as the BMWs tiptoe out of the Wilson hairpin.
In fact, the BMW's looking twitchy as well. Look for the yellow sidewall. Is that yellow sidewall on Jake Hill? I think it might well be, yeah.
It's a gamble.
The BMWs, though, if anyone could do it, it'll be them. They don't have to... They don't have to cross tyres. I don't think Josh Cook, he's on slicks, but he's front-wheel drive.
There is Josh Cook then coming down towards Agostini, and as the car was dropped down and he was told you're on slick, ready to go, big thumbs up and a smile on his face. So he's, in a sense, he's nothing to lose. He's in the top six. He's in the first three rows of the grid. If it doesn't work on slicks, well, he's still in.
He's still sixth.
He's still at the pointy end.
He can't be lower than sixth. No. I think definitely, judging by the weaving going on, I think that Napa car in front of him is on slicks. I don't know which car it is. Looking at the...
Camish, isn't it?
It is Camish 27, yeah, that is Camish. Looking at the track map, so I think he's on slicks. I think it's the right shout.
Okay, well, we'll find out in 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So here we go. Harvey, your head's on the block here. Here he goes. So
I just like the call. I like the call. Let's go for it. Let's give it a go.
And as we've been saying, if you can only be at
Sutton's
worst
on
six,
Sutton's
then
on
fair
slicks.
enough. Ash Sutton on the slick tyre, Josh Cook on the slick. Down they come, then it's the next lap where they'll be going for a time. This is the out lap, so they're getting warmth into the rubber and also trying to find track position here.
I think I said that about Sutton. Now I'm not so sure. I thought the body language was like he was on slicks, but he might have just been warming up on the... Oh, yeah, Thompson's coming in. That means he's seen it's the wrong tyre.
Yeah.
He's seen it's the wrong tyre. He's going to change, but he's going to lose a couple of laps of tyre warmth. I don't know that he'll get his slicks up to temperature in time.
But he can only fall to sixth.
Yeah.
So it's worth a roll of the dice. Louise is telling us from the pit lane that it's definitely getting warmer, to the point that she might even take off her jacket now. So it's dry, it's getting warmer, and it did this earlier on in the day. The temperature did go up. It's been a funny old day. Bobby Thompson is in then, and slicks will go on. But as we keep on saying, the worst that anybody can do in this is be sixth on the grid.
Yeah, Napa Racing in the pits as well. Camish and Sutton now. Which way are they going on their tyres?
In the meantime...
Oh, no, they're crossing the tyres. They're
Yeah.
doing a tyre cross on slicks.
Yeah, in the meantime, Adam Morgan, Jake Hill, Josh Cook stay out. And at the end of their lap, we'll start to get a semblance of order. Bobby Thompson's on his way. This is Jake Hill then, still weaving around, still getting the warmth into the rubber. 6 minutes and counting.
Oh, it's going to be a last lap shootout, isn't it? It'll be a one-lap shootout. They'll all be in different places on the track. That was a good, quick change by West Surrey and Alliance Racing to get their cars turned around quickly.
Indeed. That's Bobby Thompson going out then, on track, and the very distinctive purple BMW.
And this will be his first experience of the BMW in the dry with hybrid.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
when he had a test at Brands, he'd had no hybrid. So it is a leap of faith for poor Bobby Thompson.
Just checking that's dry, is it? It's dry in parts. I mean, go offline, it ain't that dry. Josh Cook's hustling on though, look, because he has done the best of the 3 drivers that have done a Sector 1 time, but he's still weaving and warming up the tyres, so it'll be a notional quick time, but we know that people will go better. We're heading towards the halfway point of the session already, so as we keep on making this point too, there aren't that many laps available, but they all come in this mad flurry at the end, and Cook's car all unsettled, he goes through the S's, good save.
It's a good save, but they know that all they're doing is building temperature for the last lap. They're trying to just drive quickly enough to build temperature and get a feel for it. It's the rears that heat up slowly. Look how sketchy it is on the rear, because of course he didn't cross his tyres. The Napa Racing Fords crossed their tyres. Whoa, he's working hard behind the wheel. He's probably thinking now, was that the right decision? I was all gung-ho for it in the pits. I'm not so sure now.
Live
But
with it,
he's
Josh.
got 2 or 3 more laps before it really counts.
Well, he's fastest, briefly, 2 minutes 9.534 from Jake Hill on a 2:10 and Adam Morgan on a 2:13. But you can anticipate a bit more shuffling when Thompson, Sutton and Camish are factored into all of this. 4.5 minutes on the clock now.
Yeah, it's definitely driest at that top end of the track, the section through Riches and Wilson. This section here, then coming to Palmer's, looks really quite dry. It's down at the end of the Wellington Straight, Bentley Straight, sorry, that it gets slippery down into the S's at Brundle and Nelson.
Jake Hill, now the quickest driver in the first sector, so going faster than anybody else had done in the session, and then Josh Cook comes along behind and goes faster still. So Josh Cook, who is in Q3 for the 2nd time this year, could well be on for pole position by the end of it. Let us see, because although Jake Hill has looked absolute dynamite all the way through qualifying thus far, it's a different feel to the track now.
Totally different, and it's the first time in qualifying the cars have been on slick, so it's all to play for.
So who do you think is going to be on pole then?
I've no idea now.
Smiley. Right,
Yeah.
Josh Cook is the fastest, and he's a 2nd to the good, although there's more time to be found. You can feel it's getting brighter, it's getting warmer as well. Josh Cook's on a good lap. Jake Hill, though, should go top, I would have thought, because he'll cross the line ahead of Cookie, and he's looking good in the sectors. Bobby Thompson, we've yet to get a lap time out of. The same is true of Sutton and Camish. There are 3 minutes to go, that's all. And Josh Cook's coming sideways out of the S's, catches another slide and presses on.
This is the worst part of the track for the slick shod cars. Look, they're now taking the racing line through the bomb hole, but they've already matched, or they've already gone faster, should I say, Josh Cook has, than the fastest time that we saw on wets. So we know this is the right tyre to be on.
Bobby Thompson is estimated to be 4th on his first flying lap. Josh Cook is heading up towards the line. Jake Hill's gone fastest at 2 minutes 5, best time of the day. Shows you how drier and how much quicker the road is now. What about Josh Cook? 2.3, 2.4 up towards the line. 2 minutes 5, 2 minutes 6. So he is 2nd fastest. Adam Morgan behind stays 3rd. But Jake Hill then, who's got 2 career pole positions to his name, is the fastest again. 2.5 minutes to go.
They will get 2 more laps, won't they? I'm not sure that this man will.
Right, so Ash Sutton we're looking at as he comes now up towards bomb hole, turns through the right-hander, and he's done 2 absolute bests here, 2 purple sectors. So Sutton for the top of the time should be on here.
But look at the clock. It's already gone down to 2 minutes 6, which is the lap time. So he's only going to get 1 more lap. That's crucial. The others will get 2. He will get 1.
So
I said it all comes down to track positioning.
He's got this lap and 1 more. Comes across the line, and this should put him fastest, shouldn't it? As Ash Sutton goes across the timing line, breaks the beam fastest, 2 minutes 3.614, a 1.5 seconds quicker. But if the road is getting this much faster, with every car coming over the line. And remember that Sutton only had 1 second of hybrid to use a lap. Camish is up to second, Thompson's up to fifth, Hill is third, Cook fourth, Morgan sixth, the other 3 drivers. Right, so the flag is 1.5 minutes away.
And Hill has done 2 absolute bests. I tell you what, it's going to come down to the last lap, and Hill's going to get another lap as well. This is already going to put him fastest if he completes the lap, and he'll have 1 more lap. I think he's in the ideal position.
Camish, lap time disallowed, track limit. So Dan Camish loses the 1 flying lap that he'd done, and will have to go again. You're right about Jake Hill squeezing another lap out of it. That is the now penalised Camish, who has got to dig deep and try and find something to get himself up from 6th. Here is Jake Hill about to start his last lap, and as he does so, is Jake Hill going to go onto it as the new pole position driver? The answer as he breaks the beam is yes. 2 minutes 2 now, 0.349. Cook still pushing on, and he has done a personal and an absolute best. Josh Cook coming up towards the timing line. Is it pole for the Toyota? It's second for the Toyota, and he's down by a full second on Jake Hill.
Yeah, so Hill, Cook, Morgan have all crossed the line to start their last lap. It'll just depend when the flag comes out. We know Sutton won't make it round.
So Ash Sutton's up at the S's, and he will take the flag this time. He will lead them all across the line to take the flag. So they're all on the last lap of the session now. Everybody is onto the last lap. So Sutton is down to third, having put himself top, but he's not given up, look, with an absolute best and a personal best. He may well go fastest, but then he has to sit and wait for the call over the radio to tell him whether he drops and drops and drops. Flag is out. Qualifying is over. Ash Sutton comes up towards the line. He'll be the first man to take the checkered flag. As he does so, the number 1 Ford of the reigning champion puts itself up to pole position on a 2 minutes 1.681. But then here comes the stampede behind him. Bobby Thompson goes through. Dan Camish up to third. Thompson is going to be fourth as he takes the flag. But it's Jake Hill, Josh Cook we need to be looking for now to see what they can do.
And Adam Morgan, they all have another lap to go.
They do, but Adam Morgan is slower than the other 2 in the first sector. So Josh Cook pressing on. Jake Hill's coming out of the S's, there he is. Cook's behind him, Morgan is behind him. Adam might shuffle the order, but he's not going as quickly as the other 2.
Hill got the fastest second sector of anyone, but it wasn't the fastest in the first, although it was a personal best. It's all down to the last 2 corners for Hill. He's taking the racing line. No more wide lines for him.
And Josh Cook has been off the road and slowed. So Josh Cook has had to bail out of his last lap because he's been off the road. So it's all eyes on Jake Hill. Second up towards the line. He's got to be in the low 2 minutes to see what he can do as he comes across the line. And he goes quick. It's on a 2 minute 0.876 by 0.8 of a second. Jake Hill takes pole position. Fantastic effort.
I knew it. No, what a great session. That was full of entertainment. We knew it would come down to the last lap. The crucial thing was he had that 1 extra lap.
Yeah.
Had it not been for that, Sutton would have been on pole. But it was just came down to track positioning. The tyre cross on Sutton's car cost it a lap.
And this was what happened to Josh Cook. So on that lap, he'd done a personal best in sectors 1 and 2, and then it all got away from him down at the S's, and not for the first time the car was sideways, but that was his biggest lose of the session. It looked pretty dramatic from the outside. On board it looked like this.
Yeah, he got his right-hand wheels on the damp part of the track as he was starting to brake, and that just gave him a snatch. He was trying to be a bit too greedy on the way in, use a bit too much road. It was a damper part of the track. The outside wheels used the ones you lean on, and it just snatched on the braking. But a really fun qualifying session, and Jake Hill takes a pole.
So Jake Hill, for the 3rd time in his career, takes pole position through a qualifying session, and now the sun has sort of come out at Snetterton. We could go again, couldn't we? Jake Hill is the fastest then at the end of Q3, from Ash Sutton and Adam Morgan up to 3rd, Dan Camish 4th, Bobby Thompson 5th, and Josh Cook, after that big slide, ends up 6th. High drama all the way through, and with Colin Turkington being bumped out in Q2 and Tom Ingram out in Q1, it is going to give us, as expected and as intended, a very interesting grid going into the first of tomorrow's races, and we still have no idea what the weather is going to have in store for us tomorrow, but come what may, we know we're going to have plenty of dramatic racing. But after a tough Brands Hatch, that was the absolutely perfect way, wasn't it, for Jake Hill to bounce back?
It really was, yeah. And he sounded confident. He looked confident. I think if it had been wet, he still would have been quickest. Although Ash Sutton pushed him extremely hard. But Sutton will be absolutely delighted with second place, with minimum hybrid availability, and seeing both his immediate championship rivals of Tom Ingram and Colin Turkington falling back or having some problems. But a great qualifying session.
There is Ash Sutton's car then going through the weighbridge and the ride height check. And the BMWs of Jake Hill and Adam Morgan sandwiching him. First for Hill, third for Morgan. Adam, in fairness, although he hadn't looked as though it was going to be that great after his first sector, did put a really good lap in to get himself up to third. So a really fine effort by Adam Morgan once more. BMWs looking strong all day long. Bobby Thompson first time out fifth. And there Jake Hill joins the queue of cars. So Ash Sutton goes through the technical checks, then Dan Camish, then Bobby Thompson, Jake Hill a little bit further back in the line. So as you look down from the drone, you can see the work going on as the cars are way forward. There's the infamous roller going underneath to make sure that the ride height is to the regulations. Then the car will go onto the scales and then released from the technical officials. So for Dan Camish, after losing that lap time for track limits, fourth is where he ended up, and the car being checked. Bobby Thompson behind in the queue to be fifth. Jake Hill, our pole position driver, and then the cars released down towards Parc Fermé, where Louise is ready to have a word with the leading drivers at the end of that session. Dan Camish released, so the next one is Bobby Thompson.
Great performance by Bobby Thompson.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got to say, on his return, never having done this qualifying format before, never having driven that car in the dry, never having used hybrid at this level, to have ended up fifth, is a fabulous achievement. He'll be really pleased and deservedly slow. So, not slow.
Let's hear from Ash Sutton then, because he's second fastest, and with 1 second a lap of hybrid to be second quickest. Louise, he's just showing off, isn't he?
Well, I'll ask him the question. David saying 1 second a lap of hybrid, that was just showing off, basically.
I'll be honest with you, it was more about timing and making that call onto the slicks. We made that quite early from the second qualifying session. I just worked like hard to get some temp into the tyre, and it worked, and the car was there. I mean, last man across the line ultimately was always going to win, so fair play to Jake, mega lap by him, but that thing was on rails for me, so yeah, can't thank Napa Racing UK enough.
As you say, I mean, it was about the timing. How frustrating not to have that extra lap to do the best that you could with it.
The track was evolving so quickly, so like sector 1 we were, I think, 3 or 4 attempts clear of Jake, and then sector 2 is where it was improving, and that's where the lap time come from him. So like I said, fair play to Jake, mega job, but for me, that's massively overachieving in what we need, especially with some of our rivals having a bit of a rougher day.
Well, exactly, it must have been an absolutely stonking lap. Just tell us about the lack of hybrid, or the little amount of hybrid that you have, because this is a really long circuit. It does have a big impact here, doesn't it? It's
massive. I think if you compare to someone that's got full deployment, you could be looking up to sort of 7 tenths around here. So it's huge, and my poor old 1 second doesn't do much. So yeah, look. Car's just been mega today. In the wet, dry, we've been happy with it. So see what the weather's doing tomorrow, and see what we can do, see if we can take a fight to Jake.
Tell me about the call to put the slicks on. How much of a conversation was it, or was it just a case of like, that's what we're doing, bolt them on, I'm out of here?
I left the pits from the start of Q2 and went, Q3 is going to be slicks. And the moment we did a lap and we realised very quickly that the tyre fell away and the track's getting greasy, I was like, make sure the slicks are ready for Q3. So, like I said, that conversation was done a long, long time ago. Worst case, we were going to be P6. Best case, we could have fought for pole, which we did, so I'm pleased.
Well done, well done. And I can see some cheers behind me. Let's just turn the camera around, and you can see Jake Hill over there taking the plaudits from his team. I'll throw it back to you guys for just a second, and then I will head over there so we can grab a word with Jake as soon as he's finished hugging people.
Well, there's lots to celebrate after that. Fascinating session, great effort. Very, in fairness, I mean, Jake was good all the way through, wasn't he, in every part of that. It wasn't just that he was there at the end. It was his qualifying session all the way through. He looked mighty. Bobby Thompson joining in the celebrations as well. But in the end, it was Hill, Sutton, Morgan, the top three. And once Jake's taken off his crash helmet, 0.8 of a second quicker than anybody else he was. And 0.8 is quite a margin around here. That, Louise, I suspect, is the perfect way to bounce back after a tough Brands Hatch.
Well, we talked about that during the session, yeah, absolutely the perfect way to bounce back after Brands Hatch, wasn't it?
It dried. I was wrong. So, I'm so happy, Lou, honestly. Yeah, what a perfect way to bounce back. You know, I'm absolutely thrilled. Huge credit to all the guys behind me. You know, they've just done an amazing job. And yeah, I must admit the laser beam is in a really good place today.
Just talk to me about the timing of that lap as well, because you must have had a huge smile on your face when, or did you realise that you had a lap in hand, whereas some of your competitors didn't?
Well, yeah, I mean the lap before the last, I was told I was fighting Josh, so Josh was potentially a bit quicker, and I just thought, you know what, let's just have it. Let's just throw the world at it and see what happens. I'm either going to shunt and be 6th, or I'm going to be on pole. And luckily it was the latter. So yeah, I fired the world at it. Really clean lap. It's a bit messy. It's very damp in places, but you know, I spent a long time building those tyres, building that temperature up, and it all paid off.
So this bodes well for race day, doesn't it?
It does. You know, I mean, we've had a very good run here at Snet the last couple of years, and you know, let's hope we can continue that tomorrow.
Well done. We will see you out there. I think I heard Bobby. So let's just go and grab a quick word with Bobby T, just to get his reaction to that first qualifying session. Just push Mickey out of the way. Bobby, you've got to be happy with that in at the deep end, and you've come out swimming.
Yeah, I think I spoke to yourself yesterday or this morning, and I said that I just wanted to be into Q3, and we done that. I feel a bit of an idiot rolling out on wet. I thought it was wet. I was following Jake. He had some spray coming off the tyre. We made it through. And Zeus Cloud Racing's turned up.
They're going to be very happy with that result, aren't they?
Yeah, they're going to be over the moon. P5, that gives us a nice little start for the race one tomorrow, going from the inside. Yeah, I'm over the moon. The car felt really good in the dry. I just underdrove, I think. So I know we've got a good car underneath us, and yeah, I'm happy.
Well done. And then finally, I can see Adam Morgan over here. So let's grab a quick word with him. Getting a quick hug from the team. Adam, just a quick word. How happy were you with that final lap?
Yeah, it seemed in every qualifying it was the final lap that got me there. So it's been a tricky day today. So I'm over the moon with P3, and hats off to WSR. You know, a 1 and a 3. We had a 1 and a 2 at Brands, so we're doing something right.
You literally just squeaked into that final session as well, didn't you? I mean, as you say, we thought the top 6 was sealed, and then suddenly you were there.
Yeah, well, my engineer, I can tell by the tone of his voice whereabouts I am roughly. So I knew I had to pull out something, and a couple of times I was like, I'm not in here. So it was a last lap, do or die effort really that got me in, and it's been like I said, it's been a very up and down day. So to come away with P3, I'm chuffed to bits.
I guess you'll be hoping for a slightly quieter, calmer day tomorrow.
Yeah, from being in the wall in FP1 to P3. So it'd be nice if it was dry. I think we've got strong pace in those conditions, so we'll see what we can do, but hang on to his tail and go.
Well done. We'll see you out there tomorrow. Nothing wrong with being in the wall, is there, Tim?
Louise, thanks. It is Jake Hill then who is on pole position at the end of a fascinating qualifying session, and we therefore look forward to racing tomorrow here on the Snetterton 300 lap. The cars have gone through those technical checks, and with a jumbled order, this is how it's going to line up provisionally for race one, with Jake Hill on pole position for the 3rd time in his career. Ash Sutton, Adam Morgan, Dan Camish, Bobby Thompson and Josh Cook with him on the first 3 rows of the grid. Andrew Watson, Rob Huff, Colin Turkington and Dan Rowbottom round out the top 10. After that was Chris Smiley 11th, Ronan Pearson 12th. We lost, of course, early on Toms Ingram and Chilton, Aaron Taylor-Smith, Mikey Doble starting 16th for race one ahead of Aidan Moffat, Scott Sumpton, Darryl De Leon, Sam Osborne and Nick Halstead. It's going to be a very busy day of racing tomorrow. Regular support programme and also the Porsche Sprint Challenge for the new Caymans joining the package this weekend for their first races. We're on air from 10:50 tomorrow on ITV4. and a great day of action it should be. We'll see you tomorrow morning then over on ITV4. 10 to 11, we get underway for a great day of racing on the Snetterton 300 layout. But for today, from Louise Goodman, Tim Harvey and David Addison, it's goodbye for now.